Good morning, Nancy. Good morning. Hear a little echo somewhere.
Not anymore, you don't.
Oh, good.
Lo siento.
It'll be in. How's your Spanish feeling, Ann? Really frisky?
Yeah, it's the same. Let's see, where am I going? I think I'll go on to Zoom.
¿Cómo se dice frisky en español?
No sé.
French, it's la la.
I guess it's not that good. Ooh. Someone's coffee smells good.
Jared, give her your coffee.
Yeah.
No,
sorry.
no, don't be silly. You silly people.
Jared, she was
No. Oh.
Look at Laura cleverly drinking Gatorade or water or something.
It's just water or something.
It's Amish Gatorade.
What's that mean?
It's water.
Oh.
It's gonna be a good day, I can tell.
Yeah. Oh,
I already have my 2 cups of coffee, so
same.
Here's the limit.
2's the limit for me, I'm ready to get a headache.
Oh, 2's the minimum for me, or I got a headache.
Shooting a starting position.
Actually,
Ann and I are taking it. Something like it's something fun.
two-
No, sounds like you guys are having too much fun.
Hey, Chris.
we miss you.
I miss being there, but I don't miss being on the road. So
All right, gang, we ready?
Bring it. Good morning, everyone. Today is Wednesday, December 11th, 2024. It is 9:30 on the nose, and this is a work session of the San Miguel County Board of County Commissioners. Present are Commissioner Brown and myself in the room, and Commissioner Holstrom on the Zoom. We also have a number of staff and citizens on the Zoom call. We'll open with a moment of silence for grounding and gratitude. Thank you, everyone. We are lucky to be here. A review of the agenda. Commissioners, any suggestions for today's agenda?
Not from me.
hey, here.
Okay, thank you, Chris. That takes us to public comment for items not on the agenda. Looking for hands in the Zoom. Not seeing any, but willing to wait another moment, because that's just the right thing to do. However, everybody in the Zoom is either staff or waiting to hear Mr. Padilla speak, and he is up next. That is item number 6A, which is an update with the Trace Rios field office, and Derek J. Padilla, the field manager from the office, is with us on the Zoom. Good morning, Derek.
Sorry, couldn't be there in person. Had a personal appointment this morning that prohibited me from driving up there. But I'll definitely make it a point to get up there the next time around. So just a few things. The Gunnison Sage Grouse Resource Management Plan Amendment was signed back in mid-October. What that did for our area was that we added the Dry Creek Basin ACEC area for critical environmental concern to our ACECs here for the field office. And then it just, instituted, a few, things that, going to be doing to, help the Gunnison sage grouse, recover in its landscape. One of the things, specific to the San Miguel County, was a request actually, by the county to include, a consideration for a reroute of the U-29 road, which was in close proximity to a lek. It's on private land, but there again, the reroute would be on BLM land. I did send some folks out to, look at what options there were out there, and they were able to identify a particular route for a reroute. So, at some point, we'd like to get with Ryan and whoever else, from your staff, out there to take a look at that to see, if that's, amenable to the county, for that reroute. If it is, then what would be required would the county would just need to be reapply for a right-of-way for that new reroute. And then once we went through that process, we'd have to go through the NEPA process to analyze that new reroute, with the end result being a new route, for County Road U-29 out on the landscape. And then we would reissue that right of way with that new route. We are currently still without a realty specialist. And we just received actually a list of applicants to review. So we're hopeful that we'll have somebody in place by this spring to take care of the administrative side of a right-of-way reassignment. But in the meantime, like I said, we can get out there and take a look at the route on the ground and, decide whether or not that's something the county is interested in pursuing. Is there any questions on that?
Commissioners, any questions?
Who would pay for the reroute of that road?
So there again, that was at the county's request. It's a county road, so it would be, the county's, responsibility for that reroute. And then the maintenance, after that, if they wanted to continue it, for it to continue to be a county road.
And would the county also be funding NEPA?
I think we could handle that internally, but I would need to, speak with our lands and minerals, staff to see if, we wouldn't get, the only thing, like I said, that's a little uncertain now is, what level of expertise we're going to get in a realty specialist. So, I can't, firmly commit that we would handle the NEPA because we just might not have the expertise in place to do that from that side. But, I think in partnership with the county, that's something that we could consider doing that internally.
See, Ryan's hand is up. Ryan, go ahead.
So there was it's about 10 years ago, there was a lot of work that was done on this, and there were a lot of meetings and there was a lot of discussions. So what's different if you guys went and identified a route? Is it the same route that was identified before, or what's the same and what's different between this plan and the other plan that was discussed then?
Well, I guess I was not aware that there was already a route identified. So if there was a route identified 10 years ago, if you have that information and you can provide that to me, Ryan, that'd be great. And then, we can take a look at that. And if there was any kind of analysis completed, then we can, possibly just use that. It was my understanding that, that there were some options looked at, but that none of them, were very feasible. So, so that nothing ever got finalized, but that, my staff now has, identified a feasible route. So that was my understanding. But if you have more information, we definitely like to take a look at that.
Okay, yeah, I'd be glad to share the file. We have pretty pretty big file on that. But yeah, I remember that I guess the big challenge was with the route. If the route went to the south, it was the trees for the raptors and the birds of prey in the wintertime, that it was too close to those trees where the route went. So I don't know if this is the same one or if something's changed with the bald eagles or any of that other stuff.
Okay, it was our wildlife biologist that actually identified the current feasible route. So he was taking all that type of information into consideration in looking for a new route. So maybe it is a completely new route based on what you're talking about, that the original one had some issues with it, and that this one now was looked at from that perspective and wouldn't have those same issues.
What is the,
Thank you.
what's the approximate length of the road that would need to be rerouted? Like, is it yards or miles or?
I believe it's in miles. I think the reroute is not as significant as what would no longer be available, as the county road. I don't recall off the top of my head what the actual mileage is, but just remembering what they showed me on a map, like I said, it seemed less significant than the amount of road that like I said, that would no longer be available. But I can get that information to you all, fairly quickly. Yeah, my apologies for not having that.
Well, commissioners, if we are interested in taking up Mr. Padilla's offer to go out with Ryan, perhaps Star, perhaps one of us, if we want to do so and have a field trip, take a look, we could make a more informed decision, and conversation would be a lot easier after that initial visit. In that time, it sounds like Ryan would be able to get the file to Derek's crew, and they'd be able to compare their thoughts with our decade-old thoughts and see if they're lined up exactly or if there's small variations, and work out those details and come up with a suitable alignment that everybody's content with. Then we'd go from there, see if we've got a specialist on the crew. Does that sound like a worthwhile proposal?
It does to me. Star has her hand up.
Star, go ahead.
Good morning. Thank you, Derek. The county is, they have written in the comments, I'm not sure. I know my predecessor had written in comments, the possibility of rerouting this road, because the road goes right through the LEC, and then the LEC is obviously part of the ACEC. And just considering the cost of this, and thinking about, could it be considered to actually close the road during the LECing season rather than a full resource, of bringing the road around into another location? I'm not sure if that's been considered, because the county offered this up as a suggestion to protect the Gunnison sage-grouse LEC. And specifically, we get permits, or we get special use permit applications for mining or people to use the road. And we request that they be considerate of the LEC timing restrictions for surface disturbance and disturbance of the bird going through that road. So just thinking about multiple options in that, of the cost of rerouting a road versus maybe just closing it during the period of time.
That's a county road, so it would be the county's decision on whether or not they would want to consider, closing that road during the LECing season. So that's, with the right of way, that's, right in your, purview of making that decision, or the county's purview. Yeah. Looks
Okay.
like Ryan might have a question.
Actually, I just wanted to add to that. So we currently, right now, December 1st, we don't, to the end of April, we don't, do any road maintenance out there. We don't maintain that road in the wintertime. So a lot of those roads kind of close by default. But, I know, speaking to Gunnison County Road and Bridge, they have multiple roads up there that they have added gates to during the lekking season, and they've done it with the authority of CPW. And so there's ways to work through the statutes with that to be able to close those roads off for those periods of time. So that is an option.
That certainly sounds simpler and cheaper to install a couple gates than to reroute a road and go through a NEPA process. I'm surprised that we didn't have someone of STAR's intellectual capability on staff earlier to propose that simple plan. However, why don't we do this? Why don't we ask Ryan to go ahead and send the file, just so that Derek has all the information from the past in his office as well. And based on an examination of both Plan A and Plan B, Derek, why don't you contact Ryan and STAR and let them know what you have determined as far as is the road exactly the same or dang close or wildly different. I think once Ryan has that information, he'd be able to make a rough calculation even without visiting the site as to cost to rebuild or reroute. And with that number, we can probably make a decision without having to go much farther, or we may decide that we do want to explore it further. But it seems like STAR's compromise is laser sharp. So let's not spend a lot of time on field trips and worrying about this yet. Let's just confirm some math.
Star, when is the lekking season and how long does it last? How long would the road be closed? Roughly. Oops, you're on mute.
I believe it's March 30th through July 1st.
Oh, okay.
And that might be the reason that we didn't consider that too much. If the road isn't being maintained in the winter and it's closed from the 30th through July 1st, that is a very short season for actual use.
Yeah. And is it an active lek? Do we know?
Not currently, no.
Derek?
Not currently active. Star, you're saying yes and Derek's saying no.
There haven't been birds for the last few years anyways.
Yeah, I was gonna ask that too, the numbers of how many birds have been in the area. I know it was coming, there was a lek next to it that had gone into historic, and I thought there was potentially still.
And that is true. I mean, it hasn't been, deemed inactive at this point in time because there needs to be a certain time frame for, no birds to be there, and we haven't met that threshold yet. So there is potential. There have been other leks over on the Utah side, that didn't have any kind of activity for, 5 or more years that all of a sudden now do have some activity. So the potential is there. They just haven't recorded any birds there, I believe, in the last 3 to 5 years, from what I understand.
And
I would ask in this ACEC, now that it's protected, do you have plans to do a lot of restoration and to try to get the birds back in there?
Not at this point in time, nothing, specific that we've identified as of yet, no.
Derek, one more question. You mentioned 3 to 5 years in Utah, and then the birds resurfaced. Is there a established number for when a lek goes from historic to being deemed inactive?
I believe there is, and unfortunately, I don't know that off the top of my head. I would need to ask my wildlife biologist. For some reason, 7 years is in my is a vague memory, but I am not, absolutely certain of that. But I'll ask that question and get that information to you all.
Thank you. Commissioners, any other questions on this topic?
Not from me.
Ryan,
No.
Star, do you have any other thoughts about U29 before we continue?
No, I'd be glad to set a time and meet with Derek. There's some pretty big maps and some things that I have in that file, so I don't know if you want to just look at the file that I have. It might be easier than trying to scan it to you.
Okay, sounds good. And then I'll also check with my folks and make sure that, somebody doesn't have something sitting somewhere that I just wasn't aware of. That just hadn't been brought to my attention that there was already a lot of work done.
I would just like to correct myself that it's March 1st through July 15th.
Thanks, Star.
Star?
When we get back to talking about this again, I might need a little more background on the whole bird situation in the basin in that area. Obviously, it's something I've heard about for a long time, but just kind of an understanding of where things really are, where they've been, where they're going, to understand if we want to make this investment, if it's worth it. So maybe when we have that discussion, or I could do that separately if you all are up to speed on that.
Let's make a request of Star that if we do get to a serious discussion about this, that Star sets the conversation up with an overview of sage grouse history in the Dry Creek Basin area.
I would appreciate that. Thank you.
It would probably be good to bring Galena Gleason up to speed as well.
He's in the room and she's got her ears on, so she would like that too, I think. Great, Star. All right, Mr. Padilla, what else should we talk about? I feel like we've got a loose plan for U29 and some steps
Mhm.
forward.
I agree. So then the other thing I was going to talk about was American Helium, who is now, formerly they were Paradox Resources. On October 21st, we sent them a notice for increase in bond, to increase their bond from $25,000 to $540,000. They were able, to secure that amount of bonding. So they now have a bond in place, for $540,000 for the resources out there. We didn't, they were talking to us about not having, the financial capability, to continue operations out there. So we were very surprised that they were able to come up with the bonding of the $540,000. Since then, they must have got an infusion of dollars from somewhere, and have been able to, meet the minimum requirements, to continue to hold the leases out in that landscape. We have recently gone out and done re-inspections of all the different sites and have issued written orders to American Helium, based on the safety and health issues that are, still prevalent out there. They'll have 60 days to respond, and within those 60 days, if they don't respond, well, then, we'll have, the opportunity to start, taking action as far as notices of non-compliance, for not addressing those health and safety issues out there. And right now, that's really the only recourse that we have, due to the bankruptcy court, is to, request them addressing safety and health issues. Other issues, like weeds and things like that, are something that we don't, currently have the opportunity to move forward on because the bankruptcy court asked, that the new company be given, the opportunity and time to be able to establish themselves before we start taking action on non-safety and health issues. So that's kind of the approach that we're taking right now. And like I said, to this point, they have been able to, meet the minimum requirements of the Bureau of Land Management for the operation out there. So they are still in business and continuing to, operate the limited operations that they do have going on out there. So I just wanted to give you a status update on that. And that's kind of where things are at.
Questions, commissioners? Or Maura, who is our new county attorney and is probably getting up to speed on mining and bankruptcy legislation.
I don't have questions. I don't have any questions at this time. I've been brought up to speed as much as I think the information is available at this time.
Commissioner Holstrom, Commissioner Brown, any thoughts? I see Kay Simonson with her hand up. Go ahead, Kay.
Yeah, more passing on a concern from our treasurer, Brandy Hatfield, regarding the delinquent taxes and wanting to make sure that that stays on a front burner. And keeping an eye on the bankruptcy proceedings and status. Because it is a substantial amount of money.
We share those concerns. I see Star has her hand up. Star, before you jump in, Derek, I don't think that you have any influence over delinquent tax collection. Do you?
We do not. You're correct.
All right, but you do have a $540,000 bond, but that's reserved for natural resources and compliance with safety regulations.
Correct.
Got it. Star, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Derek. I know that we all have our own permitting process and bonding, etc. But as you share with us, I think it's good for the BLM to know, what we're also dealing with at the county. Brandy shared that it was $108,000 in back taxes and will be increasing in January. As well as Ryan has his hand up. We had tried numerous times to get contacts for Brandy in our treasury department to be able to make contact with this company. And we did have someone come to an emergency management meeting where we were able to get a contact. And they shared 3 contacts and said that they would be updating their permits with us in September. And still, we have not heard from them. We do not have updated permits. And then Ryan can share more information about the road and his permitting process with this company as well.
Go ahead, Ryan.
I guess my question would be to Mr. Padilla. So when we issue our permits, they're contingent upon them being in compliance with all our state, federal, or local or other, city, their permits as well. So how does that relate to your permitting? Do they have to be in good standing with the county under our permits? Because we haven't been able to get them covered under our permit for a road user. Or I think even the planning department's having a hard time getting them to update their, their information. And so I was curious, how does a BLM view that if they're not in good standing with the county?
Well, with county government, there isn't a requirement, that they, meet, all those requirements. With the state, it's a little different. They do need to be in compliance, with the state, unless there's differing rules between the federal rules and the state rules, which we did run into a little bit of that they were in compliance with the federal rules, but they weren't in compliance with the state and who had, primacy there, which usually does, default to the federal government. But no, we don't have anything like that for county governments.
The process be to get that?
That would probably require, either congressional action, or, a rulemaking process, that would need to be, more than just one county, that it would need to apply, to all counties across the West. So that would be a matter of, working with our headquarters, our Washington office, to there again, develop a rule making process for, making it a requirement that operators would need to be in compliance with county policy and regulations, before the Bureau of Land Management would be have any kind of authority to take action or not take action with regards to an operator not being in compliance with the county. And I'll just say, that would be a pretty pretty big task.
I was afraid of that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Big rock, bigger hill. All right. Well, Derek, I hope that you've heard the subtext in this conversation, which is that we are struggling with this outfit and haven't yet really felt like we've even got solid contacts. If you do, could you by chance share those with us and we could see if they match the 3 that we have that feel stale and aren't working?
Yes, I'll reach out to Ryan offline and let him know who we've been talking with regards to American Helium.
Yes, please, and thank you.
Regarding the 108,000 in delinquent taxes, is this the situation where we have a lawyer in Texas who is sort of monitoring that bankruptcy proceedings and looking out for us?
It's actually 800,000 plus in back taxes.
Okay,
And we have outside counsel in Denver.
okay.
It's been somewhat unresponsive, so we are
Hmm.
coordinating with Dolores County to try to get a meaningful update.
Remember you telling me that. Okay.
Derek, with that additional information, you can understand our interest in trying to straighten this out, and any contacts that you can provide may help us track down the missing 840 that supports not only the county, but also a number of special districts. The one that comes most to my mind is the Norwood Library. And it's something that's been a thorn in our sides for a while. And we're trying to figure out where we can get some traction with not just this company, but all mining companies, so that we don't end up in this vortex.
Sure, understandable. All right, so the last thing I was going to talk about was the big game resource management plan amendment. That was finalized at the same time as the Gunnison Sage Grouse resource management plan was completed. That is pretty much specific to maintaining wildlife corridors, specifically related to oil and gas operations. There wasn't, a lot of impact to our area down here. It was mostly due to some issues up in the Grand Junction area. But, we do have oil and gas activity down here in our area. So we were, us as well as several other field offices were rolled into this resource management plan process. So there again, that's completed. Most of what impacts us down here is the identification of areas for no surface occupancy. There's areas where there are going to be special considerations that will be required for surface occupancy if they are in these critical corridor habitat areas. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. There's a lot more detail in it for sure, and the detail is in our e-planning site there. If Star wanted to take a look, if she hasn't been keeping track of that one, and that's available for review now. But like I said, the decision has been signed.
Ryan, go ahead.
This is kind of to tie in our previous conversation with this conversation was during that road realignment. I remember, or I recall in the file that the gas companies, I think it was in Canagas back then, they were part of that discussion as far as sharing cost of constructing some of those roads, because they do tie those wells together that are out there. So just, that was part of that discussion and all of that road relocation. But with how hard it is to get them to obtain a permit just to use the roads that are existing, I think we can count them out of that conversation moving forward.
Thanks, Ryan. Star, do you have any particular questions for Mr. Padilla regarding the big game resource management decision?
I don't, thank you.
Great. Commissioners, do you have any questions for Mr. Padilla regarding that topic?
Not me, not I.
All right. Well, in that case, knowing that the decision's been made and that none of us feel like it's got a deep effect on our neck of the woods, I think that we'll just stand by.
Sounds good. And that was the last topic I had. Well, actually, I got one more. Over in the it just slipped my mind. The Dawson area, as conditions get better. So it's when you drop down into Slick Rock Hill, just to the south there was a research project that generated hundreds of piles that we will burn, once conditions, which means once we get some snow out there, we'll start, burning those. So we're probably looking, probably in January, February is when we'll continue to burn. We did burn some of those last year, last winter, but there are several hundred more out there on the landscape still that need to be treated. So we'll be doing that this winter. So just wanted to pass that along. And with that, I don't have anything else unless there's any questions on anything else that's going on out in your neck of the woods.
Quick question about the Dawson area burn. Assuming that's in San Miguel County jurisdiction, do you double check with our county health department and emergency services before ignition, or because you're a federal agency, do you do what needs to be done?
We do notifications. We don't make we don't request approval or anything like that, other than with the state, their air quality department, issues a smoke permit to us, that provides parameters under which, we're allowed to burn. And if we're not meeting those parameters, like ventilation, smoke dispersal, things like that, so that we have the least impact on, residents in the area and things like that. We're fortunate in that area that, there isn't a lot of human health, considerations that need to be taken into consideration just due to the, low number of people that are out there. And then just because of its proximity, to any kind of population centers is pretty far. So we usually can burn even under fair conditions because of those reasons.
Understood. Would you be in contact with the Egnar Volunteer Fire Department as part of your notification process, or is that something that?
Most of the volunteer fire departments and the fire protection districts are on our notification list. So I don't know specifically if Egnar is, but I would imagine they are. Like I said, we just send a mass notification to all the different emergency operations type folks, sheriff's departments, fire protection districts, volunteer fire departments, and the such, and then I usually send something to you all, just giving you a heads up that this is occurring, when they let me know that they're going to burn out there.
Well, let's do this, Derek. If you could double check that email list and confirm that the Egnar Fire Department is included, that I think is the nearest outpost of civilization of any density. And I think it would be good for those firefighters to have the information. And then if they get reports from their citizens traveling, at least we can avoid having a lot of communication snarl by having it local instead of at a higher level. And the other thought is when you send that information to us, we'll make sure to get it to our public information officer and get it out on all the channels we have up here, just to try to minimize phone calls, people seeing smoke and being worried about natural occurrence.
Sounds good. Will do.
Thank you. Commissioners, any other thoughts on that Dawson area burning topic?
Nope.
Right.
Nope.
Mr. Padilla, thank you so much for keeping your commitment to us, to meet with us on a quarterly basis. It's really useful. We really
Mhm.
appreciate you making the time, and we appreciate you remembering the cadence.
You're welcome.
You may want to bid Commissioner Holstrom a fond farewell, because
Yes.
she is moving on, and we'll have a new commissioner seated next time we meet. Her name is Galena Gleason, and she's actually in the room taking notes, so she's already doing her homework.
All right. Well, it was good working with you, Commissioner Holstrom, even if it was only a short time. And then, Commissioner Gleason will look forward to working with you.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a great rest of your day.
All right. You all as well.
Thank you,
And
Derek.
happy holidays.
Likewise.
All right, commissioners, we are on to item 6B, which is consideration of the commissioner's support on a proposed bill called the Seasonal Employment Protection Act. Commissioner Brown brought this to our attention, and why don't you go ahead and walk us through where we are, what we'd like to consider.
Certainly. I will share what I know. There was some information provided in the agenda. But we have on telephone, I can see one of the owners of Baked and Tyride, Marty McKinley, and he brought to my attention concerns about the H-2B visa program. And Marty, I'll let you go into a little bit more detail, but I'll just provide the background. Marty's concern is that demand for this visa program, which allows seasonal workers in for all sorts of industries, far exceeds the number of permits that are allowed by the federal government. The number is, I believe, 60,000, and that number was established in 1990 and has not been changed since then. So Marty's understanding is that there will be 250,000 applications this year, and I believe this is for the winter. I'm not entirely sure of the timing. Marty's concern for his own business as well as others in the area is that we often rely on seasonal workers who have been coming in and out of Tyride for years, if not decades. They know the community, they are reliable, they are a really important part of our workforce. And there's concern that particularly those who come from Mexico will not get their permits, their visas renewed this year. And I assume that's something to do with quotas by country, but Marty can go into that a little bit more. So Marty had asked me to try to put him in touch with people in Washington because there is a bill under consideration, and let me get the name of that. It is sponsored by Senators Graham and so it's a bipartisan bill, and it is called the Seasonal Employment Protection Act. That would rejigger basically which industries use which visa programs and allow some historic users of the H-2B program to be exempted from current limits and all this, and in our mind, really resolve the issue at least for this year, so that Baked and Tyride and others can get their groups or their teams back in place for the season. We did have a terrific phone conversation with John Whitney from Senator Bennett's office, as well as the person in Washington on Bennett's team who tracks immigration legislation. His name is Kevin Figueroa, and they were not, I would say, super positive about the ability of this bill to get through during the lame duck session. And then I think, and we didn't talk about next session, but given the incoming administration, I think it might be tough to get something about immigration passed anytime soon. But anyway, Marty, I suggested that one of the things the commissioners could do, if anything, was to write a letter to people in Washington who are looking at this bill, including our senators, and encourage them to push it along as best they can. So we have a template from a number of industries who wrote a letter to the powers that be, kind of describing the situation and urging their adoption of this bill. So I have kind of adapted that letter to fit, San Miguel County's needs. And I believe everybody, well, at least Mike and the commissioners have looked at it. I just have one outstanding question, which is whether, so basically I've included as addressees the 5 people that were included on the industry letter, which I understand are kind of the leadership in that, the current decision makers on the Judiciary Committee. I've also included our 2 senators and our representative. And my only outstanding question for the commissioners is whether you think it would be appropriate to include our representative-elect Jeff Hurd, which I suggest that we do, just so that he is aware of our concerns, even though he doesn't start till January. But that's really, I believe, the only outstanding question from that I have for you all. And then I would suggest we hear if Mr. McKinley has anything else to offer, and also obviously how you all feel about this letter.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Holstrom, before we add any thought, why don't we see if Mr. McKinley has any additional information he'd care to share?
Yep.
With us. Go ahead, Mr. McKinley. Good morning.
Okay. Well, good morning, everybody. Thank you, Ann. Thank you, commissioners. This is a very important issue for us. Shortly before Senator Bennett's visit to Telluride, we were made aware by our consulting company that there may be difficulty in procuring the number of visas that we need for our temporary help. Just to put it into a little bit of perspective, we, for the most part, have a head count of about 30 employees, of which roughly 1/3 is usually made up of the H-2B force, and of that, 90% are typically Mexican. Many of these people have been getting these annual visas for a number of years. They're well trained in their jobs. They rely on it, and we rely on them. And for that to be displaced would cause us a real issue. They have told us that there may be an opportunity to switch to other countries. They're creating a job fair opportunity in Guatemala and El Salvador, but this would be a very, very expensive process for us to have to travel to these job fairs and to screen employees and train them if, in fact, we cannot get the return visas from our current workforce. So it's a real dilemma. Generally speaking, we submit the applications in December, and if approved, we look for these employees to arrive. We pay for their transportation, and they generally, in the past, have asked for them to become available early in June. We've stepped that up to May because in some cases the process takes too long, and it's important for us to have these employees by the time Bluegrass comes around. And then these employees remain with us for approximately 10 months until the end of March, and we are required to transport them back to their country for a period of roughly 2 months. And in many cases, we provide housing for these employees, again, due to another problematic issue in our town, and that's employee housing. So again, we've made it our business to be able to provide housing for these people. And I understand that, again, the Gran Padilla Act would essentially reclassify certain industries to take away a significant amount of those applications into another category, and it would leave the number of applications and the number of visas available roughly equal. So, the opportunity to procure these employees, again, would be roughly even, and our odds would increase significantly. Right now, as Ann pointed out, there's roughly 250,000 applications for 60,000 visas. So the numbers just really don't work very much in our favor. And I'm sure that, again, as you can see on the letter, there are many, many, many other organizations and industries that are impacted by this. And unfortunately, this thing just seems to be caught up in politics. It's a lame duck session. Anything to do with immigration is a hot potato today. And from what I understand, the unions are pushing against this, which is a real mystery to me because, none of these positions are really a threat to any union job whatsoever. So again, we're going to proceed with the understanding that, we may have difficulty with this. We will attend these other job fairs. And again, it's just a great imposition, and it's a financial challenge for us to be able to shift gears on this. And anything we can do to, increase the opportunity or likelihood of getting this passed would be greatly appreciated. Again, Senator Bennett's staff has been quite good in terms of dealing with the issue. I understand Senator Bennett does support it, but unfortunately, again, it's just kind of stuck right now. So that's where we're at. And again, I appreciate the opportunity to present this issue to you.
You're welcome. And Commissioner Holstrom, do you have thoughts or questions?
No, I just appreciate the input, and I feel like we're on a good path here to express our community and our ideas.
Take that as you would like to direct staff to prepare and send this letter, which we could ratify next week at our 12/18 regular meeting. Is that correct, Chris?
Yep.
Cool. Let me clarify. There's two letters. One that is in the packet is the kind of national template, and then Commissioner Brown took the time, and I appreciate it, to craft another letter that is not in the packet, but is based on the same information, but crafted more to our county. I'd be inclined to support Commissioner Brown's personal letter as opposed to the more national letter.
Okay, that sounds great.
I agree.
All right. Well, since we are in work session and are not able to make a formal vote and take a position, let us direct staff to prepare that letter, track down Mr. Hurd's representative-elect address, please, and get that in the mail, which we will then ratify at our next meeting, and Mike will put that on the agenda. I see him making notes right now.
Thank you. I just had a couple follow-ups. Marty, you mentioned that the unions were opposed to this, but the letter that Bennett's office shared that was authored and signed by, for example, the National Association of Landscape Professionals, the National Ski Areas Association, and all sorts of others, indicated that this Grand Padilla bill had been kind of hashed out together with seasonal employers and unions, including the AFL-CIO. But you might have some different information about that.
I'm only, relaying the feedback that we got from Senator Bennett's staff.
Okay.
And Kevin had indicated that there was some union pushback. And again, it's, as I indicated, it's just a mystery to me why there would be any.
Okay, yeah, maybe different unions. Okay, and then the other thing I wanted to just share with the commissioners and also with Marty is that I did reach out to both CCAT and CCI to see if any other Colorado counties would be interested in this, signing on to the letter. And nobody has responded, basically. A couple local commissioners did. One said they're so overwhelmed with year-end business budgets and so forth, I'm sure that they can't look at this right now. And another said she would follow up. CCI, I might have sent it to the wrong person. I'll redirect it once we've finished up our letter if we agree to do that. So, yeah. But I just wanted Marty, you to know that I did try to kind of broaden the scope of this by including the other county or the two county associations that we're members of, which are the only two in Colorado, and haven't really made any progress there yet.
Well, we do have a plan that I believe we've all agreed to, so we've got a path forward and we will make it happen. Mr. McKinley, I hope that our small voice is useful. And I hope that you are able to find the help that you need for the season to come.
Well, thank you very much for the opportunity. I think if we have enough small voices, it can become a bigger voice.
Exactly. All right. We are at.
Okay, I will sign off. And again, thank you very much.
You're so welcome. Thanks for bringing this to our attention.
Okay. Goodbye. Have a successful meeting.
Thank you. All right, commissioners, we are going to, are we adjourning or recessing? Because we are going to have a lunch date. Oh, excuse me. Excellent. Thank you, Carmen. Manager matters are up next under item 7. And we've got Mike Bordonia with us. Good morning, Mike.
Good morning, commissioners. Just a few brief items for you today. Commissioner Brown raised a potential legislation that would look at reclassifying ag properties and adding in an allowance for raising animals.
This came from the assessor, Sarah Enders.
Yeah, and so was able to connect with CCI staff and connect them with Sarah, who wrote a nice, succinct, eloquent memo about why this would be so problematic, because it would open the door for potentially people going to Murdoch's and getting, you know, a few chickens to say, hey, I'm raising chickens, I have ag status, without actually complying with how it currently is, which is really more around grazing. And just potential large number of loopholes in that legislation. So CCI was happy to get that and is working with Sarah to make sure that the Assessors Association, which felt the same as ours, is being heard before this legislation gets into committee. The town of Telluride, yesterday, Jenna Kask and I appeared at their regular meeting, and they approved a tap fee waiver for the Mill Creek Park by ordinance. They passed the first reading unanimously, and at their second reading, I don't expect any changes. They redacted a potential request for the county to pay for the pressure reducing valve, given that they also need one, and we're going to work on where it might be advantageous to the town and county for future affordable housing developments, not related to Mill Creek Park.
Yeah.
But
and that's a $30,000 savings-ish, right? So
savings.
thank you to the town of Telluride, and thank you for Janet and Mike for applying for that.
Yeah, and I'm really happy because we first raised this issue almost 2 years ago. So happy to have that kind of moving forward finally. The behavioral health request for a gaps analysis. We know that we received grant funding from DOLA for that. And that RFP is live. It's
Great.
live this evening.
Mhm.
And so we're optimistic that we'll get a lot of interest in that. The Sheriff's Office and Emergency Management specifically has requested that, or has recommended rather, that the Bintel company be selected for the continuity of operations plan. It was the highest scoring project out of their responses, and it is well within the budget. It's actually under budget, which I was happy about. Next Wednesday will be our last regular meeting for December. We'll be discussing a revised holiday schedule, resolution, the supplemental budget, and a draft intergovernmental agreement regarding the town and county's activities on the Bruin building will be brought to you as well. We're also expecting a memorandum of understanding for the Telluride Foundation's down payment assistance request, and how we may allocate those funds formally to them.
Do we also have on the agenda a conversation about the intergovernmental infrastructure plan, or I can't remember exactly what that's called? That's the grid that Zoe's been putting together. Has that been on the agenda as too?
I would have to check back as to the timing of that. It may be.
I think I had asked you about that and you responded in an email that it was the 18th. So I'm just confirming that hasn't changed. And that was the timeline we agreed to at the last IG meeting, that we would have that discussion in December. So then I think there was a subcommittee that was going to meet in January.
Excellent. I'll make sure to confirm that in email to commissioners.
That makes sense to you, Lance? Yeah, okay.
Today at 4 p.m., we're going to be having the lodging tax panel meeting where we're excited to potentially welcome a new member to the lodging tax panel. This past Monday, the San Miguel Regional Housing Authority had its regular meeting, and we said goodbye to our executive director, Courtney McElhaney, who will be moving up to the Telluride Foundation. And this morning, Jared Biggs and I met with the admin assistant at SMRHA talking about transition planning. And that position is also posted on the town and county's websites and the SMRHA website and on Indeed. Upcoming next Tuesday, Commissioner Brown and I will be meeting with the co-responder group. Happy to finally be getting back on track. And on the 19th, the day after our regular meeting, will be the county's holiday party. So county offices will be closed 12:30 and that will be occurring down at the Placerville Schoolhouse. And that's all I have. Do you have any questions for me? Comments, concerns? Okay, thank you. Jared, did you have anything you want to update the board on today?
Nothing to add that you didn't cover, Mike. Continue with a lot of moving parts.
Should we mention that we are expecting at 12 o'clock Larry Donsuka?
We should.
Shukla? Would you like?
Our new state representative, who will be sworn in here in January, Larry Donsuka, will be joining the commissioners for an informal gathering to start that relationship as he heads towards the Capitol, representing San Miguel County. So our elected officials are likely to be joining us. I forget, Carmen has the RSVP list. We know that some of them definite, some of them are maybes. But
Great. And then just that reminds me that next week on the 18th, we will also be welcoming by Zoom our new US representative, Jeff Hurd, who will join at 11:55 just for a few minutes to kind of make a more formal statement. And then we'll just have a casual conversation with him over, well, I guess we'll be eating lunch. I don't know if he'll be eating lunch, just to kind of get to know one another. He's been really responsive, I should say, when I reached out to him, as has his chief of staff. So I'm excited about building that relationship.
and then there was some question about the timing of our visit with Senator Cleve Simpson. It looks like Friday is the most available day so far for everybody. I was curious if the board had a specific time on Friday afternoon.
We're talking Friday the
20th. Right, this Friday or next Friday, the 20th, correct?
Or it could be the morning as well. My understanding is he'll be traveling from Denver on Thursday, so it could be just late afternoon, and that doesn't work, I know. So then the next option would be Friday. I would suggest maybe we talk about the morning so that he doesn't have to hang around all day.
We committed until 10:30,
Okay.
but if he needs to meet earlier, I understand that. We don't want you to
11
hold
a.m.
things up.
Well, we don't want to do it without you, though.
Thank you.
Yeah. And Commissioner-elect Gleason, does Friday the 20th at 10:30 work for you?
It does.
Okay. And how about Commissioner Holstrom? I should have asked you first, although I know you're not exactly jumping at extra meetings at this point.
Yeah, it works if I can make it. Yeah, I mean, but it doesn't conflict with anything at this point in time.
Okay. Mike, good for you?
Excellent.
Okay,
We'll reach out to him and confirm that time.
okay, great.
And that would be a meeting in this room at 10:30.
Yes.
Great.
Thanks for nailing that down, Mike.
Thank you.
All right. Unless there are other questions of our manager, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second,
All those in favor?
hi.
Aye.
I as well. Motion carries. Thank you all very much for your time. Have a great day.
Bye, Chris.
Hi.
Stay warm.
Trying